I do want to say this. One of the main things that people have a problem with when they get together for Thanksgiving is people talk politics. So people come, your family's coming from all over the country. They're all in different geographical areas. You travel there, they're going to have a different political view than you. You guys live in different areas. You guys have different education. You guys consume different levels of media, so on and so forth. And of course, it's been, 2 years since the Trump election? So there's going to be a lot of that still. People are still talking Trump. Now, depending on where you're at, one of your relatives is going to show up and be like, Trump, oh my God, he's a fascist, he's the next Hitler, blah, 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 blah. And you're just going to try to roll your eyes. Or they're going to show up and be like, MAGA, yes, build a wall, lock her up. And you're just going to be like, you're going to roll your eyes, depending on where you're at in the political scale. But I have an antidote for wherever you're at there. That whenever your relative is talking about Trump, pro or against, you can look him in the eye and say, did you know Donald Trump is a time traveler? Make sure to tell him you listen to it on Dead Rabbit Radio, get the word out. But you'll be able to look at that person and go, did you know that there is actually possible proof that Donald Trump is a time traveler? And then just sit back, and they're going to look at you, and they're going to say, teach me what you know. Teach me. Teach me these things. Okay, so let's get into this. This was really bizarre. Now, it's funny. So I got an email from a listener a couple days ago, and they asked me if I had ever looked into this before. And it was from Andrew. Andrew emailed me. And I said, this was originally the first episode of the podcast. Before I knew what type of format I was going to do, I did a test run of the show, and it was, is Donald Trump a time traveler? And it was funny because then I had completely forgotten about it because technically I had covered it. Like in my mind, it was a story that I'd already done. I recorded a whole 10-minute segment. I think it's lost to time now, but then I went on and did episode 1. So I'd kind of had covered it in my mind. He brought it back to my attention. So you're thinking, Jason, is Donald, what possible proof do you have that Donald Trump is a time traveler? My first answer to that would be what proof do I need? I mean, he's defied all odds, but there is proof. Or a series of coincidences that seem very, very odd. So let's go back. Let's visit the city of New York. It's November. A highly unpopular outsider candidate wins the presidency of the United States. And the city's on fire. Not literally, but with people rioting. The entire east side is in a state of uproar. Police officers are moving through the street, warning people to stay off the streets as these riots go on. Mobs of vast sizes are organizing under the lead of anarchists and socialists, and they threaten to plunder and despoil the houses of the rich who have wronged and oppressed them for so many years. The Fifth Avenue Hotel will be the first to feel the fury of the mob. Would the troops be in time to save it? Now, that's not my opinion. That's not from a news report. That is from a book that was published in 1900 called The Last President. The book, The Last President, is the third in a series of books about a little boy named Baron Trump. There was an author back in the 1800s named Ingersoll Lockwood. He wrote a lot of children's books, but these 3 books have come to attention recently. The first book was The Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump and His Wonderful Dog, Bulger. Oh, little puppy. 1893, he wrote the sequel, Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. So these were basically Jules Verne type stories, Alice in Wonderland type stories. And then the third book was 1900, or The Last President was the name of that book. So Baron Trump is this little boy. So we're going to go, don't worry, this gets even weirder. The character of Baron Trump, in the book, his name is William Trump. Baron is his title. And I guess I should say, in case you don't know, Donald Trump's son is named Baron Trump. Donald Trump, that is the name of, in real life, Donald Trump's son. And in the book, the character is named Baron Trump. I guess I should have said that. Not everybody knows the name of Donald Trump's family, but yeah, so that's, in the 1800s, there was a book series called, about a kid named Baron Trump. Today, Donald Trump has a real kid named Baron Trump. And you're like, maybe he read the book. Maybe he just named his kid after the book. That's fair. It's far more reasonable than what we're going to get into, but this character, Baron Trump, lives with the Trump family. They live on Fifth Avenue in New York City in Trump Castle. Donald Trump in real life originally lived in Fifth Avenue in Trump Tower. Baron Trump has a buddy, a mystical guy named Don Fum. Now, Don is a signatory. It's like a sir. He's a Spaniard, so it's not like his name's Donald. There's this mystic guy named Don Fum who helps open these portals for Baron Trump and his dog Bulger to go on these adventures. No joke. He opens these portals and leads them to Russia. Okay. Again, just coincidence. Okay, so in real life, Baron Trump does not have a dog named Bulger. They actually didn't even have a dog until Trump got elected president. They did get a dog when they moved to the White House, and Baron Trump loves this dog. The dog's name is Patton, like General Patton. Now, this is a bit of a stretch, but again, it's just odd. General Patton was a general during World War II, and he was instrumental in one of the greatest Allied victories of World War II, Battle of the Bulger. Now, to be fair, before you guys shut off the podcast, I didn't make that connection. I read it on a website, so don't blame me for that ridiculousness. And you're going to say, Jason, is that all you're going to do? Is you're going to read us coincidences between a children's book series and Donald Trump? And I'm not. Because that is honestly not even the weird stuff. Now we're going to get weird. This theory first came to my attention before I even heard about the kids' books. This theory that Donald Trump is a time traveler is predated his election. It was back in like the summer of 2016, maybe even a little bit earlier, was when this theory started popping up. And there's some weird stuff behind it. Nikola? I'll just call him Nikolai. Nikolai Tesla is a famous inventor for inventing weird stuff. He was a contemporary of, I believe it was Edison. Tesla was always working, he was working on free energy. He was working on wireless energy, so nothing would have to be plugged in. He was working on remote control. He, invented a remote control boat. And, I mean, we're talking, way back in the day. He died, in 43. And he had a long career, so we're talking 1910s, 1920s, 30s. He was working on all this stuff. During World War II, he was talking about inventing a death ray, a thing that could just blow stuff up. So he was always working on all this crazy stuff, and there's been a ton. He's like the Tesla coil, the electrical coil thing. Very, very fringe, and connected to things like the Philadelphia experiment that made the boat disappear. Just a lot of fringe science. The guy definitely was ahead of his time, and he wasn't a crackpot. Not all of his theories panned out, but he definitely knew his stuff. But he ends up dying, and the government really wanted his research. So they had this group back then called the Office of Alien Property. So if you died in America, but you weren't an American citizen, these guys would go, take your stuff. They went in, they took all of his notes. To this day, we don't even have access to a lot of the stuff that they took. There's a lot of his research that we know is missing because it was mentioned in other places, but we have no record of it. Office of Alien Property then takes all of they don't understand it. They're like, this is just high-level math, high-level science. We don't get this. Let's go to MIT. They can read this nerd stuff. So they give it to a guy at MIT named John Trump, Donald Trump's uncle. Donald Trump's uncle, John. Donald Trump's uncle John now has access to some of the most fringe scientific theories of the time. And honestly, probably even in our time. We have nothing even close approaching wireless energy. John Trump said, there's nothing in these documents. He didn't say that. John Trump basically said, there's a lot of great things in these documents, but, it's a lot of it's fringe stuff. I'm paraphrasing, but the question is this. This guy who was just outside the box, 100 years ahead of his time or more as a scientist, dies. All of the stuff that he came up with, but he didn't have the means to do, gets given to this other guy. He goes through it, takes out a couple pages, turns it over to the government, says, here's what it means, but it's a bunch of stuff. And like I said, we know documents are missing from Tesla's work. John Trump's favorite, I guess it goes without saying, I don't know why I'm pausing like this. John Trump loved his nephew Donald. So here's the theory. This is where the theory started. That John Trump discovered the secret of time travel through Tesla's work, and then gave those documents to his nephew, Donald. Donald then uses those documents to build a time machine and go into the future and into the past. So the books were inspired by his adventures, or possibly even, it gets weird when we talk about time travel, or even possibly that in the future, his son will go back in time, and the books are inspired by the life of the actual Baron Trump. Could be very likely. Or maybe Baron Trump goes back in time and writes them himself. Oh my god. Time travel. But anyway, so let's get back to Donald Trump. So this is the theory that came out during the election. Donald Trump has access to this time machine. And again, this theory popped up before the books were even on anyone's radars. The theory is that, now, this is where the theory splits, because there's a couple different ideas of what happens. I'll tell you what, if I buy into this theory that Donald Trump is a time traveler, this is what I think happened. Donald Trump goes into the future, everything's awesome. He uses his knowledge of the future to come back in time and make a bunch of money. But there's one thing that happens in our timeline that didn't happen when he first visited the future, and that was 9/11. Donald Trump lost a lot of friends in the attacks on 9/11. And that's when the playboy mindset had to kind of flip for him, because he saw what the world could be, and this event happened that he didn't foresee, and he lost a lot of people because of it. So it started to kind of change his mindset. Now you're thinking, okay, we have that aspect of it. Now you're thinking, okay, Donald Trump, fine, built a time machine, goes to the future, 9/11, da-da-da-da-da, does all that stuff. Now what? Well, like I said, it gets weirder. Pence, Vice President Pence, is also a time traveler. Did you know that? Make sure to tell your relatives that too. Not only is he also a time traveler, he's not from our timeline, he's from the future. He's from a future where everybody I'm not making... Okay, when I say I'm not making this up, I hope you know that there's people who believe this. I'm not sold on this idea, but the photographic evidence is a little weird. Mike Pence comes from a future where everybody looks like Mike Pence. That's what people are going to look like in the future. Now, I will say this. Mike Pence, he's a big dude. Like, I saw a picture of him. He is like a yoked up, or he's just a broad-shouldered guy. But anyway, so I don't know what that has to do with anything. So Mike Pence, in the future, everyone looks like Mike Pence. That's what humans are going to look like. And he's like from far in the future. He traveled back with Donald Trump to say, okay, to avoid a terrible future, I have to become president. But they aren't going to vote for me because I'm a big old weirdo looking tank dude. So Donald Trump, you run for president. Use your knowledge of the future so you'll know what other people are going to do. And then I'll be your vice president. And then when you leave, I'll take over. And we'll have this utopian world where everyone looks like Mike Pence. And so, again, this is a legit theory people believe. Donald Trump goes, okay, great. So Mike Pence, his time machine's better than Donald Trump's time machine because it was actually built in the future. So Mike Pence can actually send, like he can go back, say 5 minutes to talk to himself 5 minutes before and send that Mike Pence back while Mike Pence still exists in the future. It's this weird causality loop. So there's multiple Mike Pences. Everyone looks like Mike Pence in the future, but also there's multiple Mike Pences in our timeline. And it's the same Mike Pence. And for whatever reason, Tim Kaine's wife is a Mike Pence. Tim Kaine's wife. Tim Kaine was Hillary Clinton's vice presidential candidate. Tim Kaine's wife is a Mike Pence. Now, they do look an awful lot alike. They really do. It's super bizarre. Now, again, I was reading this conspiracy theory before the election, and people were like, there's no way Trump is going to lose. There's absolutely no way he's going to lose because he's from the future. Okay, the Mike Pence, the planet of Mike Pence's, whatever. The Baron Trump book, that's weird coincidences and things like that. But I got 2 more pieces of info for you. 1, the day that Donald Trump won the Illinois primary during the election, lightning struck Trump Tower. Was that a moment where he was going to correct the time stream where he didn't win Illinois? Probably not. He actually kind of had the nomination sewed up by the time he won Illinois. But it is an interesting coincidence. However, Donald Trump famously said about his daughter Ivanka, if she wasn't my daughter, I'd be dating her. Well, one theory is that in an alternate timeline, Ivanka was born to another man and another woman. And they were dating. But because Donald Trump has been going back and forth so much in time, he ended up marrying the mother of Ivanka. Now it's his daughter. So now he can't date her. And you know what's so funny? I'm going to close the episode out like this, because I have really no other way to wrap this up. I've complained about other conspiracies in the past, like World War II was fake. I'm like, this is total nonsense, nuclear bombs or whatever. Nuclear bombs don't exist, yeah, whatever. So there are certain conspiracies that I view as when I cover them, I'm almost discouraged from researching more conspiracy theories because I look at how misinformed some people can be to really think World War II never happened. This conspiracy fills me with a childlike joy. I just find it so amusing, and I think it's amusing because, one, it's a conspiracy theory that's fairly lighthearted. Like, again, love them or hate them, it's an entertaining theory. It doesn't have to involve Holocaust not happening. It doesn't have to involve 9/11 was an inside job. It's not like this horrible, it doesn't have this huge death toll. A lot of the conspiracies are fairly, dark. This one's kind of lovey-dovey and cute, in a way. It's a conspiracy theory that we're basically living through right now, because again, if he's a time traveler, it's going on. I have to admit, I read this conspiracy theory, like I said, back in 2016. I can't look at Mike Pence without thinking there's a planet of them somewhere in our near future. I think it's just a fairly fun one, and again, the next time someone starts talking about politics and you'd rather not just be bothered, you'd rather just do something else, just turn around, look him in the eyes and say, did you know Donald Trump is a time traveler? And then say nothing. And to make it even funnier, when they go, what did you say? Just turn back around. Just don't acknowledge them. That was a clip from our daily podcast, Dead Rabbit Radio. Dead Rabbit Radio is available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime news. If you want to hear the full episode that this clip came from, check the link below. Please like and subscribe. And hit that little bell, too. That does some magical stuff. Thanks, guys.